Hi everyone and welcome to another recipe video. In this one, I'm sharing with you how I make my apple crumble. And I love this recipe for two reasons. One, it's super easy to throw together. And two, it's great for portioning. So if you ever found yourself wanting to make dessert just for yourself, then this should be your go-to. So the first thing I'm gonna do is start with the crumble topping, and this is just delicious on its own. I like to make a huge batch of crumble and I just keep it in the freezer. So every time I feel like having apple crumble, I will just get my apples ready, fresh and sorted, and I'll just grab a little bit of that crumble, sprinkle it on top and bake it. And there you have a dessert made for one or two people or however many you want to do. In this video, I'm only gonna make 2 single portions, so you don't have to do this sharing dish type of dessert if you don't want to, and I love that. So the crumble is quite simple. I have butter, sugar, flour. I'm adding some oats just to get that crunch. But you don't have to. You can put something like almonds or whatever nuts you prefer. Now the key to a great crumble is cold butter. I have kept mine in the freezer for about 15 minutes, cubed it, and it's ready. I'm using my fingers in this recipe for the incorporation of the butter with the dry ingredients, just to show you how easy it is to do it by hand. You can use a pastry cutter or even better, a food processor if you just want to do something quickly. So what I'm trying to do here is break up the butter as quickly as possible because I don't want it to get too warm, and as evenly as possible. So I'm just pinching around, kind of rubbing the butter with everything. And you don't want to rub it too much so that you end up with a paste. You want to have little bits that are visible, like I'm showing you in the video now. And you want it to look rather even. When that's done and it looks just like I'm showing you in the video, then you can add the additional toppings like oats, for example. You dump those in and you just mix until it's nice and incorporated. And that is it. You're done with the crumble topping part. Now I'm gonna prepare my apples, and while I do that, I'm gonna keep this in the fridge so the butter doesn't get too warm. I find that this much crumble is enough for 4 to 6 portions, depending how much you actually use. And for this video, I'm just preparing 2 apples, and this gives me 4 portions of apple crumble. I'm using single ramekins, so single portions, and it actually ends up being 2 of those per apple. So just bear that in mind. 1 apple should feed 2 people. And I went for my favorite baking apple, which is the BRAEBURN. I like it because it has a little bit of a tang. It's really delicious on its own, which is key for me in terms of the flavor. And it holds its shape as well. So once you've peeled them, you can start coring them. There are special tools for this. I don't have an apple corer, so I'm just cutting around the core, as you can see here, getting rid of that. And once you get rid of the core bits, then you have to clean up your slices a little bit. I have some peel just at the top and the bottom of the apple. It doesn't have to be perfect, but you will notice that there's peel on the apple once it's baked. And I'm trying to get now some even slices out of these wedges. So I went for something about 1/2 inch in thickness. I don't want it too chunky, but I also don't want it too thin that it just becomes this soggy mess instead of having that nice bite in the crumble. So whatever size you choose to do this, just make sure that everything is even, because that means it will evenly bake in the oven. So at this point, if you don't want to spend too much time with this, you could just use the apples as they are and bake those with the crumble. But I like to add a little extra tang. So I had a bit of lemon here, and I'm gonna add some of that zest and a tiny bit of the juices of the lemon as well. And another reason to love this dessert is because it's so versatile. You don't have to use apples, for example. You could use something like pears. You could add things like raisins, anything really that you like. For example, in this video, I'm adding some cinnamon to the crumble and also to the apple filling because I love cinnamon, so I really want that flavor in there. And last but not least, a little bit of cornstarch is great because it helps bring all the juices from the apples into a thicker consistency, so it's nicer to bite into it. You don't necessarily have to add any of these things to the apples. Like I said, you can just throw this in the dish as it is and it's still delicious, it will still work. Now, if you do add anything to them, just make sure that you mix it all in and it's all nice and even. Now, because these are apples and they will brown, then I have to be a bit quick here and get working on my ramekins. So I have 2 single portion ones here. And I'm just gonna fill them almost to the top with apples. And I do this because as the apples bake, then those juices will come out and it will contract a little bit. So you do want to pack as many apple bits in there as you can, just to get enough of the apple flavor. So I'm actually gonna get in there using my fingers just to make sure everything is tucked in properly. And once you're happy with that, then we're ready for the crumble topping, which has been sitting in the fridge while I've been peeling, coring, and chopping all those apples. So now I'm just gonna sprinkle it all over the top. I'm being as generous as possible. I love the crumble. I could just eat the crumble by itself. It's that good. And you will notice that I'm sort of overfilling here, but don't worry. Like I said, the apples will contract a little bit and that will be enough room for the crumble to sit on top. So those were my 2 ramekins, and you see how much is left over, which is plenty for another 4 portions, I would say. But okay, if you use a lot, then another 2 portions at least. So this goes in the oven at 190 Celsius for about 30 to 35 minutes. You will notice that the apples are bubbling away and you want that crumble to be nice and golden brown like I'm showing you here. And now you enjoy. And that's it. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like it, to subscribe, and to share the recipe if you liked it. And let me know in the comments how you're using the crumble. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.